What's up, guys? My name is Sumner Healey. In this video, I'm going to share the concept that frankly changed everything for me within my land investing business. If you guys are new here, like I said, my name is Sumner Healey. I help folks start, grow, and scale 6- and 7-figure land investing businesses. We've had over 200 people do just that in the last 12 months with us inside Leah. If you want to learn more, go to landinvestor.co/apply. We'll share an entire strategy with you and send you on your merry way. Anyways, this is a video that's a little raw, off the cuff, a little bit of a different style than I might normally take in these videos. It's a concept that I think that has evaded me for a long time. And I think it's a bit of a fallacy that people fall into, especially in this land business. You know, what I've seen is that most land investors coming into the game, this is their first time coming into money. This is their first time being an entrepreneur. And with that comes all sorts of weird little mindset blocks, if you will. And I think for me, for the longest time, like growing up poor, frankly, not having money, wanting money, seeing my friends that had money. I had this kind of interesting childhood experience where I didn't have a lot of money. Money was always a very sore topic in my family. But I grew up in a town called Carmel, which if you're familiar with that, Carmel is very affluent. That's where I went to high school. I was born in Big Sur, but I went to a school in Carmel. And so I think this weird juxtaposition, right? I go over to my friends' houses and their parents are talking about $20+ million deals that they were pulling off, living in 10,000 square foot mansions. Like, no joke, people living in Pebble Beach, people driving the nicest cars, kids coming up to school in AMG Mercedes. Like, it was just a crazy juxtaposition. And I never was like obsessed with money because of the material aspect. I think just like that polarity just created this kind of yearning for it. And as a kid, I'd always been really fascinated by business. Like, it's just been part of my DNA since I can remember. I mean, I was having garage sales as a 6-year-old on like a recurring basis. Like, I would buy stuff to sell it at garage sales, lemonade stand, had a whole candy selling set up at school. I almost got expelled for. Like, it's just been in my DNA. I started to realize like, oh, this business building stuff can also create this thing that I feel like I'm lacking. Probably a video for a different time. A lot of that was also just driven by a general insecurity, right? I was put in special needs classes. I was told I was stupid, incapable, all those things. And so it was also kind of like let me show you. I got you. I came from nothing. I'm going to turn into something. And so what that created is just like this, like just unbelievable lust for money at any and all costs. And luckily I never like bent my ethics or my integrity. The only thing that I ever did that was kind of in the gray area was I started a pump and dump in high school, my senior year. I started running Facebook ads and collecting all these email addresses, and then started going to these penny stocks that were on the OTC, over the counter exchange, and saying, hey, we'll send emails out to people and you can pay us. And we towed a very fine line. I hope this is past the whatever statute of limitations. I'm not quite sure how that works. We did one and we were out. That was like the only thing where I think my integrity was in question. The good news is, for whatever reason, I've always had, not to toot my own horn, but like an extreme high bar for just ethics. I think I don't know. I think it's like what separates us from wild animals to some extent is the fact that we can feel empathy and have integrity and ethics. And I think it's one of like the higher forms of being a human. So anyways, I never toed that line too much, but what I did toe was sacrificing myself for money. When I was in college, I started trading stocks, and I kind of started a small trading fund, and I'd miss class for it. I would get depressed if we had a down day. Like, everything revolved around the day-to-day P&L of that trading account. And it honestly crushed me, right? It was just a horrible experience. After about 2 years, I had to throw in the towel because the emotional roller coaster of like having my self-worth hinged on how much money we made turned into a real problem. And so that continued for a while, right? I would start any odd business. If I saw an opportunity to make money, no matter what it was, I would start that business, right? I dropped out of college to start a textbook flipping business. We're flipping hundreds of textbooks a month, started buying them from my college and other colleges, and started buying them online in bulk, and like started creating these kind of supplier relationships, and built that up to a couple 5 figures a month pretty consistently. It was a disgusting business. I mean, I literally lived in a garage full of thousands of books, like no shit. And like my girlfriend at the time, I somehow, bless her heart, was cool with it. And my fingers would get so dry from like the whatever stuff they put on the pages of the books. My fingers would start to crack and get cut up. And like, I was just in this dark garage for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, putting books in boxes, and shipping them out. And I got a few years into that. I'm like, dude, what am I doing with my life? I don't want to be the book guy forever. Like, that, this isn't the path that I was meant to walk. And so that was kind of the fork in the road for me. And the takeaway from this video, or the thought that's been running through my mind, is twofold. It's not so much about how much money you make. It's more about how you make that money. Okay. There's two sides to that coin. The first side of the coin is what you're doing actually a net value to the world, right? Or if it's not a net value, do you thoroughly enjoy it? Okay. As long as it's not harming other people, even if it's not changing the world, you're not this next SpaceX or Tesla. If you find intrinsic levels of joy from it, keep doing that. As long as it's not harming people, right? And the same token, you might not love the thing that you're doing, but if it is a net value to the world, I think that you should keep on doing it, right? I've just finished reading the Elon Musk biography and hearing his stories of building SpaceX and building Tesla during the 2008 recession. Like, I mean, to some extent, the guy loves stress and he does love what he does, obviously. Otherwise, he wouldn't have continued to do this. But at the same time, this wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, right? He wasn't just like, oh, this makes me feel so joyful. I mean, the guy was having night terrors, convulsions, throwing up every night, like stomach problems, because there's such a high level of stress in his life. But even the fact that he day to day wasn't enjoying it, he knew this is going to be a huge net value to the world, right? So that's the first thing. Not about how much money you make. It's also about how you make that money. And it's got to fall into one of those two categories. You love it, or you're really changing the world. Again, in neither one of those situations can you harm people, right? Or animals or anything. Like, I don't want you harming the environment. I mean, none of that to me is excusable. So that's the first thing. You're like, Sumner, well, what the heck does this have to do with land investing? I'll tell you. The second side of that coin is, okay, well, how do we actually make that money day to day? Right. And this is the part that I think is really, really important for land investors. When I first got into this business, I wanted to keep as much margin as possible. I wanted to do everything myself because I could keep more, make more. And like on paper, as a percentage, my margins were higher. And so for me, it was like, dude, I'll just take the grunt work and do it 24/7. I mean, I would go and spend 1 to 3 hours every day, Monday through Saturday at UPS, signing documents, mailing out documents, seeing notaries. It was insane. I was doing all of the customer service, all the acquisitions, all the dispositions, all the market selection, all the pricing, like everything. But my percentages were high from a margin standpoint. And then I realized, well, what if I sacrificed some margin and I created leverage? Like, what if I got out of this solo operator kind of job side of this business and created leverage where, yeah, maybe my margins as a percentage go down, but my like revenue per hour or my earnings per hour shoot way up. And in fact, the scale that I can take this business also goes way up. So I see so many land investors that are thinking about this from the lens of being an investor, right? It's just like this very one-track minded solo, do it on your own. The problem is if you are in the trenches 40 hours a week, that's okay, fine. Short term, sure, you gotta pay your dues. There's no way around that. But long term, that's not what we should be striving for, right? And that's like the impetus behind Leah is showing people how to build a land business, how not to go and be a land investor and do a few deals here and there and be kind of like the linchpin in your business. It's about how do we build a business that can run with or without our involvement day to day, all right? This isn't hyperbole. I work 5 to 15 hours a week in our land business, right? Because I've got the right people and the right roles. We've created the systems for it. We know exactly what we're doing. And it's taken time. It's taken blood, sweat, and tears and toil. And I had to give up a lot to get there. But I think it's really important that we think about that, right? So let's go back to the first side of the coin. Well, what does that have to do with land investing? I'll tell you. So the land business, frankly, I don't think is the most fulfilling thing on the planet. And that's fine, right? Again, you might not be changing the world in this business, but you better enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're definitely not changing the world. You shouldn't be in this business. Just get out. Go, leave. There's other ways to make money, right? When you're so hungry to make money, everything feels like the only option. It's not true. There's plenty of different ways that you can have abundance and make money and be wealthy and still check both sides of these coins, right? And still enjoy what you do and actually have a net positive impact in the world. So I was about 3.5 years into the land business and I realized, okay, well, I kind of enjoy this business, right? Like after a few years, some of the stuff starts to become a bit numb to you. I definitely didn't feel like I was having any kind of net impact on the world that was positive. Like, okay, maybe I'm helping out some sellers here and there and helping out some buyers and helping out our investors, but like that's the impact at a very small scale. And that was actually the impetus of starting Leo was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to leave the land business entirely, but I need a bump in fulfillment. I need to feel like this wasn't all just for my personal gain because truly the land business is a selfish business. Right? It's about arbitrage. It's about putting as much cash in your pocket. It's about shortchanging sellers to some extent. It's about like maximizing value with buyers. I'm not saying that's bad, but you need something to fill up your cup. That could come from a religious standpoint to giving back money, to giving back time, to having other businesses that fill up your cup. And so the takeaway here is you should have aspirations to build a business. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how you make that money. I always joke, I think I probably have the best lifestyle for any land investor. Travel every month, every other month internationally, like bop around, have a great team, have pretty minimal involvement in the business, just do the parts of the business I really enjoy that I actually feel like I'm really good at. And then we started Leah, and Leah's kind of filled up the cup on the fulfillment side. And I'm certainly not done. like there's still more I have to give the world, and there's still more fulfillment for me to chase down. So yeah, when it comes to making money, it's less about how much, it's more about how. And I don't know, just wanted to share this with you guys. Hope that was meaningful. Take care.